Hello, everyone. Welcome to another podcast within the Leadership with Kevin Sturlaugson series. If you are a returning listener, thank you for joining to hear another episode. For those listening to it for the first time, I thank you for joining and giving me an opportunity to give you some of my insight into leadership actions and activities. I hope you all find this beneficial, uh, and let's go ahead and kick into it. So I am Kevin Sturlaugson, and this leadership episode is going to be focused on psychologically safe environments. Now, I know this has been a key phrase and something out in the ether for a while, but some may not truly understand it or have false perceptions around it. So I wanted to make sure we cover this because this is a key component of making sure your people, your staff, your contractors, the people you engage with, feel like they have a comfortable environment to operate in, which improves your performance and your communications within the team. So first, let's set the context. This is not about an environment where you let everybody do what they want, how they want, and when they want. It is really about creating an environment where people feel comfortable to be themselves, engage with information, ask for clarification or understanding of information, and is able to feel safe to take some risks without fear of significant negative consequences. This requires an emotional intelligence component of knowing your people, wanting to give them a voice, and creating respect between each other along with holding each other accountable. So, yes, as I said, this is about setting an environment where people feel valued, heard, respected, and it comes also with accountability and responsibility. Those components have to be in place. So, this isn't a free for all environment. There are two primary areas that we're going to focus on, and one's going to be how do you go about creating a psychologically safe environment, and the other one is going to be what are those results that we get from a psychologically safe environment. So starting out with creating a psychologically safe environment requires the following things that you have to put in place. One, you have to have open communications. Communications is the key in almost anything. If you go back and evaluate why projects, succeed or don't succeed, why strategies succeed, don't succeed, anything that we do in business or even at home starts with open communications. So when we talk about open communications, we're talking about you're giving the personnel the opportunity to voice concerns. They're able to raise a flag to say, hey, there's something that I need some clarity on to feel comfortable with what's being stated or what's being asked to be done here. They feel the ability that they can ask questions without being villainized or shut down. They feel like they can provide feedback, that what they can give as far as perspectives or thoughts or ideas, that they'll be accepted and heard. Now, accepted and heard doesn't mean that it's gonna be acted upon as what they said is the right thing to do, but it's saying that you've heard them and understand what they have provided, and it'll be used in the consideration moving forward. And then it's having constructive communications. So when there's disagreements or misalignment or misunderstanding, we're not attacking each other in the way that we communicate. It's about doing it in a constructive way where you really have an interest in understanding the context of what they're saying. What is the what are they trying to go after? It's having that viewpoint that they're not trying to do anything harmful to anybody, and you shouldn't be trying to do anything harmful to them, but it's just putting the facts and information on the table so everybody can understand it. So that's how you create your open communications environment. Not easy, but is very doable. So the second part is acceptance of mistakes. I think we've all seen it in organizations that we've been at where somebody does something incorrectly and create some outage or some impact to the environment or to the organization itself, or even just maybe the staff directly around them. And sometimes those have been used as woodshed moments where the person's been, chastised in public, or, severely negatively impacted through, job and stuff like that. And when we do that as a knee jerk reaction, and we haven't given people the opportunity to learn from mistakes and move forward, then you create an environment where people are afraid to make a mistake. And most of our learning is done through making mistakes. It's really, how do you react to that mistake and move forward, that is critical, especially in the psychologically safe environment. You should be giving your people the opportunity to learn. They'll make a mistake, but learn from it. You don't want to keep repeating the same mistake, but allowing that opportunity and letting them know that it's not going to be, the end all be all, unless they keep repetitively doing it, or if they did it intentionally, right? So those things happen there. I used to tell my staff at the organizations I've led that when there was an issue, an incident, or an outage, I didn't want to know the specific name of the person that created it. I just wanted to know what was the root cause and what actions could we take to make sure that root cause doesn't flare up again and is repeated. And then, if it became a systemic issue where it was a single entity that created multiple, then maybe it went into some type of performance plan discussion or some additional training for that person. The next piece is mutual respect and trust. So, we hear the comment that, respect is earned, right? A title doesn't automatically give you respect. A positional authority doesn't give you automatic respect. So how do you earn people's respect? Well, to me, it's a few things that drive you towards earning that respect. The first one is that you truly value that other person or that other group. And the way you show that you truly value them is by giving them an opportunity to be heard, giving them the opportunity to be empowered, the opportunity to provide input. It's the ability to show that you have respect for them first, and then they'll reciprocate with respect back. So it's key to make sure that you develop that respect and trust between each other. Another part of that is you have to be transparent, and you have to be consistent in how you operate. You can't deal with one person one way, deal with another person another way on the same subject or the same issue. You have to be consistent across the board. And then the next thing that we have is inclusivity, right? This kind of comes back to the old, do you want to be that leader that you're the king and you're being told that everything's fine, but in reality you have no clothes, so you're actually walking around naked in the city streets? No, you want to have people that aren't your yes people. They're the ones that are going to have that honest discussion with you, going to give you input that is of value. And you want, if you always listen to the same group of people, the same background or knowledge area, you're only going to get one kind of single focused or perspective input. You want to have a diversity of perspectives. So just like we talk about, if you're into finances and stuff like that, you want to have a diverse portfolio to be protected against any, market fluctuations and things of that nature. Well, the same thing with dealing with people in business or even at home. You need to listen to all the different perspectives to give yourself a good, robust set of information to work with. And you have to be unbiased. right? Everybody should have equal value. There may be some that you lean on more because of trust or past performance, but that doesn't mean that you don't give the others value in what they have to say or have to provide for input. Don't go into a discussion with already having a decision made. Why have the discussion then? Go in with the open mindset that you want to hear what are maybe some things you hadn't considered or thought of, or uh, some perspectives that may bring a different option to the table. And we also want to make sure that we're free of discrimination, right? There's no room in any place for discrimination, and that includes in how we operate our communications within our teams, within our organizations. So if you have those four things, the open communications, the acceptance of mistakes, the mutual respect and trust, the inclusivity, you get those four foundational things put in place, you got a solid setup for a psychologically safe environment for you to operate in. Now, it's not something you can do overnight, but it's something that you can build a roadmap and within a short period of time accomplish it. And maybe you start with smaller groups and then start building it up to larger groups till you get to all your stakeholders that you engage with. You're able to operate that way. Maybe it starts with internal team, then maybe some key externals you operate with more often, and then, larger audiences. So let's talk about, what are the results of creating a psychologically safe environment? Why do we want to do all these things that make us vulnerable, that make us transparent, that um, make us humble ourselves? What do we get back for that? What's the purpose of doing it? I think if we look at three primary outcomes that we get, one is innovation and creativity, right? We've now expanded the number of ideas, the number of things that could be considered, different perspectives, all the additional pros and cons you may not have thought of, additional options you may have thought of, environmental impacts that may not have been thought of. You have some people that may have brought some idea and maybe gets iterated by another person to get even more focused or clarity, where the initial idea may not have been so likely, but with the additional modifications and additional information from somebody else, now it's a great idea, and it's one that might be used. So we create innovation and creativity when we create these psychologically safe environments, and part of it is they feel safe to fail, but fail quickly and learn quickly from it, right? So that makes your creativity and stuff go because they're not afraid to fail. And then it's learning and growth with this impact, of having others engaging together more and sharing more information. We're increasing our opportunities to learn more from each other and grow. We grow as individuals, we'll grow as teams, we'll grow as an organization. Because now we have, instead of one or two voices and one or two brains working on things, we got tens, hundreds, thousands of, brains and inputs coming into what we're trying to accomplish as a group. And then employee engagement and retention. So when employees now feel psychologically safe, they're willing to engage. Those that would sit in the back corner and be quiet in the meeting rooms, or would join meetings virtually and just put themselves on mute and start multitasking in the back because they didn't feel like they were going to be valued or didn't have any input, you're now going to start getting some of those people to engage and provide information. And sometimes the quiet ones have some really intelligent things to provide into the organization. And it kind of helps quell some of those people that like to control the meetings, take them over, be the voice that hears it the whole time, that everybody hears. And now you give others opportunity to be heard, which then makes others feel like it's safe for them to engage because they see that others that previously haven't been given the opportunity are also doing so. And then the retention, right? Nobody wants to be in an environment where you're afraid on, one mistake that you couldn't prevent, yourself, from happening, and you're going to be fired the next day if that happens, or, you don't feel valued as a person, that you're just a widget turner. Um, they don't feel comfortable being in that environment. They're going to continue looking for, if they need to pay to meet their bills, they're going to continue working until they can find that next better thing. Well, if you set up an environment where you are the next better thing compared to anything that they have offered, they're going to stay, and they're going to be happy to be there because they feel like they're giving something into the organization and getting something back from it that makes them feel better as a person and as part of the team. So I hope that makes you really understand the reasoning behind setting up a psychologically safe environment. It's a critical thing. It's something all of us should achieve to do within our organizations, our teams, and our groups that we engage with. The benefits far outweigh the vulnerability, the transparency, the humbleness that you have to put yourself into to create the environment. So I hope that you found some value in some of this information, and maybe you heard something new that you hadn't heard before, and it helps you see that there's some things that need to be tweaked or adjusted within how you've operated, maybe in a psychologically safe environment you've started to create, or you thought you had pretty good, and maybe there's some fine-tune adjustments to be done. Hopefully this helped you. But in the end, I thank you for listening to this podcast episode. I would appreciate any feedback or input you may have on what I brought up in today's episode. I do that. I ask for that because I enjoy receiving it, because it makes me a better leader myself. To hear other perspectives and ideas, along with the information you provide, can help make future episodes better. If you're a first-time listener and you haven't heard my other episodes, I recommend you go and check those out. I think there are some good topics in those where we talked about humbling ourselves and making sure our staff are our number one asset, that they're treated as such. But I look forward to your engagement and bringing you another episode in the near future. Have a great day.